invite Dr. Subha Prata for her presentation on evaluation of disc edema.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And my topic is how to evaluate the disc edema. So we discussed a lot about specific causes for the disc edema and about their management and all. This is a overall approach how we'll look forward when we see a disc edema in our clinics. So all causes of active or passive edematous swelling is known as disc edema, but we describe or treat papilledema in a different category other than all types of disc edema. So papilledema is a hydrostatic, non-inflammatory, secondary to raised intracranial pressure for any region like maybe a space occupying lesion or hemorrhages or infections where intracranial pressure is dead, and it is always bilateral and may be asymmetric. So I have discussed all details for the papilledema. So I am going for disc edema itself. So disc edema, when we see hyperemia, blood disc margin, nerve fiber layer swelling, disc elevation, tortuous vessels over the disc and peripapillary hemorrhage, we call it as a disc edema. So when we say that this is disc edema, we must rule out pseudo disc edema also. So most important the pseudo disc edemas are optic nerve head drusen, more common, tilted disc, small hypermetropic disc, optic disc hypoplasia, and other things like morning glory syndrome, Buzzminster's papilla, myelinated nerve fibers are some of the causes of pseudo disc edema. So Buzzminster's papilla and morning glory, they are congenital. Buzzminster's papilla usually they are asymptomatic with good vision, accidentally diagnosed, and morning glory are mostly they are associated with some squint, low vision, nystagmus like that. And medullateral nerve fiber, like any ophthalmologist can rule out, and optic nerve head drusen, many time they create us in confusion when the patients are referred from the neurology or obstetrics to comment on the disc edema. So two disc edema causes are mostly inflammatory, ocular hypertony for any reason, maybe trauma, maybe rupture or some post-surgery, vascular causes, orbital and infiltrative causes. So one thing is how to approach a disc edema. Patient has come to us with some symptoms, headache, vomiting, visual disturbances like that, or we are accidentally diagnosing disc edema on our routine clinical examination. Patient has come to us for some other reason, or patient is referred from any other department, physicians, neurology or obstetrics to look for the disc edema and comment on that. So we'll have to look for this is unilateral disc edema or a bilateral one. Gender and age is very important. As we discussed, idiopathic intracranial hypertension and papillitis, these are more commoner below 50, and anterior ischemic optic more commoner after 50 in that way. So as I told you, with or without symptoms, is it a accidental detection of disc edema? If you are accidentally detecting a disc edema, then you must rule out pseudo disc edemas first, then before asking for other investigations. Then signs of ocular inflammation, like you are seeing in uveitis, is it a posterior uveitis, posterior scleritis, like that, or a VKS, we have to look for ocular inflammation in that also when we are seeing unilateral disc edemas mostly. Then we have to look for ophthalmologic and systemic proper examination, like patient is a diabetic or hypertensive, that also we will have to look for. Then comes the radiological examination. Once we clinically established partially that this is a true disc edema or a pseudo disc edema, this is unilateral or bilateral, then we can clinically point out that this may be this, and accordingly we should advise other radiological or further investigations. So as we discussed in our previous speakers, that most common symptoms are headache, vomiting, retroorbital pain. Retroorbital pain that has more points towards the papillitis, then diplopia, vision loss or blurring, photophobia. These are the commoner symptoms if patient is symptomatic. And as we discussed common clinical IIH, my previous speaker detailed discussed about idiopathic intracranial hypertension. This is very commoner in young females, and it is recurrent. Patient comes, even subsides edema, then after 2 years, 3 years also patient again presents. So we have discussed that very elaborately. Then papillitis. as it is a ocular emergency, papillitis amongst all the causes for disc edema, papillitis is the most ocular emergency. We have to treat it immediately with steroid pulse therapy. That is also more on younger age group. And AION is the commonest, anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, commonest for the older adults. Diabetic papillopathy, hypertension, CRVO, these are other causes with this thing. Then ocular examination we have already discussed, that is pupillary reflex, visual acuity are very important to rule out optic neuritis, AION like that. And signs of inflammation we must look for, color vision, these are there. And as we discussed a lot about OCT, this one, CT scan and MRI in brain, and perimetry, B-scan, OCT, these are very important tools and differentiating various disc edemas. So inflammatory, most common are papillitis, neuroretinitis and papilloflavitis. Vascular CRVO is a dual pattern. CRVO itself can cause disc edema, and long-standing large disc edema can cause CRVO also. And diabetic papillopathy we saw very common, arterial ischemic optic neuropathy, hypertensive retinopathy, that is usually grade 4 hypertensive retinopathy with bilateral disc edema we see. Then orbital causes are there, tumor, orbital cellulitis that will cause disc edema and compression. So papillitis and optic disc drusen, if we do a OCT, we can see a true disc edema with optic nerve head drusen. We have also seen with our previous speakers. Then anterior ischemic optic neuropathy is very clean cut. If you only do a perimetry, that will tell you that this is a anterior ischemic optic neuropathy that will coincide with the superior disc edema with the inferior field defect. In that way, we can pinpointly diagnose that we are dealing with a anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. Then diabetes versus hypertension. In diabetic papillopathy are unilateral, not always bilateral. We may or may not find other retinopathy features. Even without retinopathy features also, they present with diabetic papillopathy. And hypersensitive retinopathy, what in my experience we always see with a grade 4 hypertensive retinopathy with malignant hypertension, maybe eclampsia patient also we see with that. And CRVO, as I told, this is a very clean cut picture where you see all features of CRVO. Then investigations, almost we have all discussed everything in details, so I am not going in detail again. Management is always finding the cause. First to find out it is a papillitis or papilledema or pseudodisc edema. Then history taking and detailed clinical examination is very important before ordering any other radiological investigations. And take home message I will give in my last slide, that we must diagnose papillitis clinically and start the treatment with pulse therapy, IV methylprednisolone to save the vision, even before establishing the exact etiology. If we kill our time by establishing the exact etiology for papillitis, we may lose the vision. So we must start treating the patient with IV pulse steroid. Then side by side we can establish the exact etiology for that. Thank you. Thank you.
So very nicely you have elaborated the approach, like how to approach a patient with disc edema. First you rule out a pseudo disc edema, and once it is confirmed it is true disc edema, then how to go ahead with it. It was really nice presentation. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thanks. Thank you.
Nice presentation.